Welcome to Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston, PhD. Glenn has held his doctorate in psychology for more than 30 years and is also a former multi-million-dollar consultant to the big food industry and uses his experience to help you defeat your cravings. This show will help you to focus on dramatically reducing cravings and leave the diet mentality behind, so you can more easily and effortlessly achieve your health, fitness, and body composition goals. Please remember, no doctor-patient relationship is created via this show, and you are responsible for confirming any changes to your diet, health, or psychological routines with an appropriately licensed professional before implementing them. Now, before we get started, if you haven't yet downloaded the free smartphone app to access dozens of these recordings all in one place, as well as to avail yourself of a confidential community for support, motivation, and assistance, please visit the podcast link on defeatyourcravings.com as soon as possible. And now, here's your host, Dr. Glenn Livingston.
Hey, this was and will always be the very good Dr. Glenn Livingston at defeatyourcravings.com, and I'm here with one of my favorite coaches, Aimee Schwartz, who has suggested that she had a little something she wanted to talk about with regards to defeat your cravings. So bring it on, Aimee. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. It's not a big thing, but it made a big difference for me, so I thought it might be worth talking about. It's about rules. Well, the importance of and sometimes how difficult it is to craft just the exact right rule. You and we had a conversation, I don't know, months ago or a year ago, I don't know, where I was talking to you about, gee, Glenn, maybe I'm just not a rule follower because I had this one rule I couldn't follow, wouldn't follow, didn't follow. And I worked on that one for like 3 years. And then I reworded it, and it wasn't just different words, it was a slightly different concept. But then all of a sudden, the reworded rule I could follow.
Maybe you can give us the example and tell us.
Yeah, I'll give the example, and then I'll tell the story about it. But actually, I'm going to give you my conclusion first, and then I'll tell you the story, because it was kind of interesting, right? So when you make a rule, this is what I figured out. It's like you have your unconscious or your higher self, whatever we want to call it, something in there. Here's the rule. You give it the rule. And I figure it's like your operating system. So I don't know how many people ever programmed a computer, but if you're sitting in front of your operating system and you type in a command and it's the wrong command, nothing happens and it doesn't execute. But if you put it in the exact right language, you're using Fortran or you don't have a typo or whatever it is, and you type it in and then bingo, it executes. So it sort of felt like that to me. When I heard the right rule, I immediately knew it was the right rule. But it wasn't like I could have thought it up in advance. It's like trial and error. And I've heard you do this sometimes on calls with clients. You'll say, how does that feel? Or take a breath. And sometimes the client will say, oh, and there's a sigh. Oh, yeah, I feel much better. Oh, what a relief. When you get to the right rule, it's like this little thing clicks into place. I don't know if you could say more about that.
Well, I can. I think that you're onto something. I hadn't really thought of it like a line of computer code, but I think it's very similar to that. What I'm doing when I ask people that is making sure that the rule matches their regulatory capacity. Because if a rule is asking you to do something that is going to make you feel too restricted or that you genuinely don't want to do, you versus your inner food monster or inner pig. It's okay if your inner pig doesn't want to do it, but if you really don't want to do it, then you're not going to do it. A rule that over restricts things is just going to break it at some point and kind of make things worse. So when I'm asking people to take a breath, I'm doing a gut check. Does this match your regulatory capacity? Do you feel like this is going to over rely on white knuckle discipline rather than something that sits naturally and well with your personality and the person you want to be in the world and the balance of food freedom versus food safety? And I think we're always trying to craft that perfect balance, and it's more of an art than a science. So I want to hear the example you're talking about so we can talk more about it. But I remember thinking that the way you were trying to word it in retrospect really was a stretch for your regulatory capacity, but then the way that you worded it that actually clicked It made sense to me that it just grokked with you. I'm revealing my age by using that word.
Right. What book was that?
Oh God, that wasn't in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, was it?
No, no. Ray Bradbury, maybe?
Yeah, it's something us old people read.
Oh, shoot. I'll look it up and let you know later.
Okay, please do. We'll have to put it on the blog when we do it.
Okay, grok. Okay, so I have a few clues about things about rules, and then I'll give you my example and we can talk further about that.
Okay.
One of the clues, really, when I first started, I was making what in retrospect were dieting rules. And I think a lot of people do that when they start out.
Okay.
And one of the clues to a dieting rule is it's time limited. Like I used to have a rule that says no chocolate until I lose X number of pounds.
Oh, I had that. Yeah. I'm not going to have chocolate until I'm under 200 pounds. I remember that.
Right. So that's really a dieting rule because you're not saying that there's something inherently about chocolate that you want to not have, but it's conditioned on weight loss. Which is fine if that's what you want to do, but I don't think that's the kind of food rule that in the end you want to have. You want to have something that this is just how I eat.
I couldn't agree more.
Second clue is, and this is sort of similar, but it's a rule you think you should have. I think you call these performative eating.
Yeah. Eating for the approval of your superego or sometimes for the approval of your husband or your doctor or something.
Right, like 3 meals and no snacks. Well, actually, I can handle snacks, but no, you're supposed to not eat between meals or something like that.
Right.
And then the other clue that I kind of got, two more. One is if there's something that your pig really hates, that's probably not going to go well. So ideally, it's kind of a compromise. And when we talk about my individual one, I'll show you how the compromise was. And then the fourth thing, if the rule is too broad and it doesn't actually cover the actual behavior, but widens it out too wide, and I'll definitely give the example because it covers both of those. So anyway, my example was I had a habit, and it was especially at night, but not only at night, a habit of reading on the couch or in bed with a bowl of insert your favorite binge food here, and I had 3 or 4 that would work. M&M peanuts, according to my fans, being the most famous one, but others would work. Any small round object that you can kind of mindlessly eat with one hand while you read with the other hand, preferably not sticky, according to the pig, preferably really high calorie, high sugar, high fat.
I always remember this guy. This is the total tangent, but and I won't take it too far so we don't get off track too much. But when I was working in advertising research, I remember this guy. His name was Peter, and when we were in the back room of a focus group, he would eat the entire bowl of peanut M&Ms. And as he was doing it, he would say, "I don't know why this seems like a really good idea at the time, but then it seems like a really bad idea later." So, and I said, "Yep, I get it."
Well, it's the perfect binge food because it has several different textures and different tastes. And so you can almost pretend each one is different, and some of the peanuts are better than others. Although, after I'll say the first quarter pound, they don't taste that good. But my pig would make me keep going. So,
Me too. I remember that. It's a perfect combination of sugar and fat and salt and carbohydrates and other chemicals. So, and they're colorful, they stimulate your diversity impulse. They're a dangerous thing in this world, I think.
by the way, this is a slight tangent too. I now have a set of kettlebells in bright colors. And they're actually, except for one, which I'm angry at to this day, they're in M&M colors.
Oh no.
Yellow, blue, red, orange, but the green one is kind of a dark green. I really wish it was the M&M green.
That's baby in the bathwater. There's nothing wrong with using our impulse for color and diversity per se. I was actually thinking that the other day. I bought a new beard trimmer. The different length guides are different colors, and I thought, finally, someone did this. Because every time I would put the beard trimmer length on, it would always be the wrong one. And finally, I just go for the orange one, and I know that's the one now. So
Or you could just put the other ones away, right?
that would be the thinking man's approach.
All right, so to continue, so that was my habit, binging on the couch with a book or in bed, and usually at night. So my rule, I started with something like, I'll never again eat after dinner and never on the couch or in bed. So this was like a whole blanket rule for after dinner or at night. And so that sort of translated into my brain that, oh, I have a problem with night eating. You have a book, and then there's some bonus material on how to stop night eating. I started eating breakfast, which I didn't used to do, which was a good thing, by the way, because then I'm less hungry at night. So that was good. Anyway, I went through all the night eating things. I'm done for the day. But then I could still read on the couch with M&Ms or whatever in the afternoon. Or if the pig convinced me it's not after dinner, or maybe you can do this instead of dinner. So I never addressed the actual habit, or I only did in passing. Or one time I made a rule that said, well, you can't read on the couch with binge food except before dinner.
Interesting. So part of the problem was you were making too broad of a diagnosis of what the problem was.
Right, right. And I was shutting down the whole night when, really, if I wanted to go out for an ice cream now and then, or dinner was late, or, who knows what, I want to have an apple, or even if I don't, it was just too broad and it felt restrictive. And the squeal that I had, because I had the same constant squeal all the time, and I never really found a good refutation for it. The squeal was always, but you really enjoy reading on the couch with a bowl of binge food. And I have to say, well, yeah, I do, but I don't like the end result. It was too far away, which was the other thing I want to say about rules, is it's good if there's an immediate payoff. Like I don't eat sugar because then the arthritis in my hands flares up immediately.
Yeah.
Because if the rule is only downstream and it's just weight loss, eventually you'll lose the weight and then there's no more motivation for the rule.
We don't talk about this too much. We emphasize the big why when we look at motivation, and we look for really big reasons like, health reasons, or, being a role model, or really big reasons that will usually come to fruition in a year or more if you just stick to your rule. But a lot of times that just doesn't seem believable. And so we have to look at a little while, like what will feel better immediately if you make a better choice right now? What do you give up immediately if you make the wrong choice? Like if you have a bowl of M&Ms on the couch, then you're giving up a good night's sleep, and you're giving up feeling confident about your way in the morning. You're giving up feeling calm and settled and happy about your life in some ways. You might be giving up the pain-free or having less pain from rheumatoid arthritis or some type of inflammation, or sometimes you need to look at exactly what's happening at the moment if you make a better choice versus a worse choice. So what worked, Aimee?
So finally, what worked was this, and I couldn't have predicted it. I did it, and then it worked. But so I was talking to someone about it, and I said, I have this problem with eating while reading. And she said, oh, well, why don't you just make a rule against eating while reading? And I said, well, I don't have a problem if I'm at the table. So then I made a rule that said, I don't eat while reading except at the table. And that immediately shut it down.
It's a slap yourself in the head with a spatula moment,
Oh
right?
my God, and then the pig, because I want to say the compromise. Here's the compromise. So the pig, if I feel like eating, and if it's at night, I can eat at night too. I feel like eating while reading. I say, oh, well, I just have to go sit at the table. That's not such a big deal. But it turns out that lying down does something to you. It turns on a different brain path that says, oh, now it's time to mindlessly eat. Whereas sitting up at the table, oh, I'm in a eating a meal mode. So there's a bounded amount.
That makes sense. And so it was all about specificity of the diagnosis of the problem.
Yes, the specificity, but also the deprivation thing. Because saying, I'll never again eat while reading on the couch or in bed, my brain heard, oh, you're shutting down a pleasurable habit. But saying, I never eat while reading except at the table, my brain heard, oh, you can still do that, just sit at the table. It doesn't feel like I'm shutting anything down.
Yeah. And that's what I meant by the rule matching your regulatory capacity. You were going to have to white knuckle that too much because you were giving up too much. And it turned out it wasn't necessary.
And now pretty much I still don't eat at night, although occasionally I will get out of bed and then go and sit at the table and eat something.
What is your takeaway? If we're going to formalize this into a set of recommendations, we would say before you jump in to make a rule that could be overly restrictive, one of my more recent insights is that you should never renegotiate your food plan under stress. Your food plan is something that General Glenn does in strategic meetings and evaluations, and eating is something that Private Glenn does. Mine is not to question my why, mine is but to do or die. And so you never want to, in a panic, make a drastic change to your plan because that tends to lead to rules that attempt to overregulate you that you're going to have a harder time following. You really want to sit down and give yourself the time to think about, well, what specifically is the problem? Not just, oh my God, I need to do something different because obviously this isn't working, but what specifically is the problem? And knowing that that's the problem, what is the least restrictive rule that I could impose that would take care of the problem? Sometimes that rule could be really giving something up. Sometimes it could be, I'll never have chocolate again. 2 out of 3 times, it's probably less than that. And so I think not doing it in a panic, and I think that asking yourself repeatedly, have I been specific enough? What context does the problem occur in? With what foods? Is it when I'm alone? Is it when I'm with other people? Is it, like in your case, what bodily position is it in? If I'm sitting at the table, I seem to be okay, but if I'm lying down, I'm really not. What constraints can you assign to the problem that really isolate where it is? And then can you craft a rule to take care of that? I think that's what you're saying.
Well, there's a few things. There's some beforehand tips and then there's some afterhand tips.
Oh, okay. You've thought about this. Go ahead.
So, well, yeah, while you were talking, I did. But the beforehand tips are what we already talked about. Is this a rule you think you should have or that you really want to have? To me, that's pretty basic.
Yep. That's the performative eating question.
Right, performative eating, even if the person you're performing for is yourself, because it might be your dieting self.
Like Albert Ellis might say, am I on myself?
Another one, and this may not apply to everyone, but I've heard some people say it, and I just wonder about it. Sometimes you'll ask someone why they want to follow their rules, and they'll say, well, because I want to feel in integrity with myself. That sounds like a good answer, but to me, it's a circular reasoning. They're saying, I want to follow the rule because I want to show that I can follow a rule. And that suggests that there may not be any intrinsic worth of that particular rule to you.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I would just watch out for that kind of thing.
That's an interesting clue.
Another clue is the ultimate goal, weight loss, and that then you'll want to discard the rule.
Okay. Is this just a temporary rule that's a diet?
A diet rule. And kind of a clue for that is, well, you've said this before. The reason we're overweight or fat or whatever we are is because we have a set of overeating behaviors. And what we've been trained to do by our culture is to go on a diet, but still continue all the overeating behaviors. And what you want to do is you identify all the overeating behaviors. You don't go on a diet, but one by one, you try to get rid of the overeating behaviors.
So just give some examples of that so that it's really clear.
Oh, okay. So, I had several. One would be like takeout food. If I made a meal for myself at home, it would be a reasonable quantity of a meal. But if I get takeout Chinese, well, then I'll get 3 different things and then eat them all myself. So over ordering from takeout would be an overeating habit.
Got it.
Another overeating habit I used to have is if there was free food at work, especially pizza. So there's 2 pizzas in the break room. I'd go and have one piece, but then I'd go back. Is there more left? Okay, I'll have another one. And I'd keep taking another slice until it was all gone. Because, hey, I'm not appreciated. I deserve to eat as much as they have here.
Yeah. Yeah. Heck, it's free.
Or samples in grocery stores. If it was really good, I'd go back and clean off the whole plate.
I understand.
Restaurants, if I'm at home, I might have 2 vegetables and a protein and maybe a small dessert. But it used to be if I went to a restaurant, I'd have a 3-course meal every single time. And the portions are already too big. Another overeating habit I had was having alcohol at a restaurant, which would then feed into ordering too much and eating too much.
Very good. You're clear now.
All right, so is it a diet rule or is it a rule designed to stop an overeating behavior?
Beautiful.
And then a clue that it might be a good rule is if both you and your pig feel like you can live with it. I know you say cage the pig and, let it suffer. You've suffered enough. But sometimes if you're both happy, like my pig said, okay, great, we can sit at the table. That's no big deal. I can handle that.
So if the pig is not going to bother you too much, is what you're saying.
Yeah, if it's kind of quiet instead of big protest. Oh my God, I could never do that.
Semantically, I prefer to keep that thought as your higher self saying, I could really do this. That you're not really objecting. It's you can really embrace the rule entirely for yourself, no matter what your pig says. I don't want people to start caring about their inner pigs. I think it kind of ruins the system and it makes them
Okay, no,
less.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. I'd have to think of a different way to word that because I definitely had a feeling that it was a compromise. My performative self would say you should never eat while reading, okay, because you have to be a mindful eater. But if I got out of that mindset, then I'd said, well, really, the only place I have a problem is lying down. So as long as I'm sitting up, I can read while I eat.
The best food plan is the one that works for you personally. And it's always a compromise between what you really think you should do and what you will do, what you can do and what you will do.
Oh, I got it, Glenn. I got it. You just gave me the wording.
Go on.
The compromise between what you should do and what you will do is what you want to do.
Gotcha. What you want to do, not your pig.
Yes, you want to do, and either the pig is quiet or you can easily shut it down.
Beautiful. I love it. The compromise between what you think you should do and what you want to do is what you will do.
I don't remember how you said it. You'll have to play it back.
Did you ever see the movie Kentucky Fried Movie?
No.
Oh gosh, it's a raunchy movie, so maybe I shouldn't be recommending it to you or anybody else. But it was from the '70s, and it was it was very, very funny. And there's this scene about this guy who drinks, and these guys don't drink, but they think, and it was a real slapstick thing. Anyway, somebody here will remember the scene and describe it correctly for me, and we'll do a whole other podcast about that. But for those of you that wouldn't mind a little bit of raunch in a movie, it's a very, very funny movie from the '70s, Kentucky Fried Movie.
And when you say raunch, which category of raunch?
I mean, there are some naked people in it, and there's some F-bombs, and
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
it's not horrible, but I wouldn't play it at a church social.
Okay. All right. So the final one, well, I don't know if it's the final one, but these ones were clues beforehand when you're making a rule. But after you make the rule, and if you have trouble sticking to it, then my suggestion is don't say to yourself, oh, I can't follow rules, I'm a failure, I'm not a rule follower, but think there might be something wrong with this rule. And you might need help to find out what it is, because sometimes it's pretty subtle.
Okay. The longer I'm in this game, the more that I think that our tendency to blame ourselves and blame our character is really a mistaken direction of our energy. I think that there's more likely something wrong with the system than something wrong with you. I forgot who said this. I think it's the guy that wrote not Atomic Habits, but the other one. I can't remember. But he said maybe it's James Clear said, we don't rise to the level of our expectations and values. We fall to the level of our systems.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you've said that before.
Yeah. So I think the implication of that is what's wrong with my systems? If I'm not following the rule, then there's something inherently wrong, either with the rule itself or the systems that are necessary to support the rule. Sometimes you have to put a system in place. It's one thing to say, I'm not going to eat after 7 o'clock, but it's another thing to do food shopping and food prep on Sundays and Wednesdays so that your dinner's all prepared and in Tupperware by the time you get home.
So there's motivation and then there's strategies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So I had, for a long time, 4 rules, and 3 of them I followed perfectly, and it was that one rule.
So are you exquisitely relieved now that you have the rule correctly?
Yes, I'm finally on the downward trend and all the other things. Yep.
And that brings us to the end of today's broadcast of Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston. Now, if you'd like to find out more about the products and services Dr. Glenn offers to help you dramatically reduce your cravings and stop overeating in 90 days or less, please visit defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. That's defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. Thanks.